I love that I can see and hear the water peeling off the hull just down here in my peripheral vision. It's absolutely lovely. I'm Jack Haines. Welcome to YachtBuyer. Let's start with slow speed stuff, shall we? It's an IPS boat. It's only got one option, IPS 650, so that's 480 horsepower per side. That of course means that you get the joystick, so when it comes to slow speed manoeuvring, it's very simple indeed. You hit your docking button and then you're just twisting the joystick, and wherever you want the boat to go, it shall move, as long as the conditions aren't too harsh. This boat's got the optional bow thruster. I'm going to repeat myself like I do in every video and say I would have it, especially if you're doing a lot of stern to berthing, because it just gives you that nice bit of extra control, especially if you've got a bit of tide or a bit of wind on the beam. The nice thing about this position though is if I stand up, I can obviously see the bow very easily, but I can also see the very end of the bathing platform from up here. I'm over here on the port side, so I've obviously got a very good view down this side, and I'm not too far over to the starboard side if I need to look over there. So manoeuvring from up here should be very easy. As we'll see later on in the tour, there is the option to have another joystick down in the cockpit, which if you're doing a lot of work moving stern to, you might want. But I think this is a really good position to manoeuvre the boat from at close quarters, and it reacts very obediently to the joystick, as you would expect. Before we get her up to speed though, please make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the subscribe button and that bell icon so you're notified every time we upload a new video. I wouldn't want you to miss any of our sea trials. But let's get on with the fun stuff and get her up to speed. It's an all new Helm station, new design. It's very clean, very simple arrangement. Got a 12-inch MFD, you can upgrade to 16-inch. You can only have one screen, so I probably would have that upgrade. Just because if you're splitting the screen, you probably want to have a bit more real estate to split the information on. So the chart's a bit bigger, you've got more engine information, it's all a bit easier to divide across the one screen. But yeah, it's very clean, everything's nicely laid out, a reasonable amount of storage. There's some adjustment to be made to this seat. As you can see, I'm just leaning forward a little bit. They are going to adjust the placement of this seat. But actually, once you're up and running, let's get her up to 23 knots. It seems to be the sweet spot. That is a very nice driving position. Indeed, it's quite sports car-like. I'm sort of sat back, feet out in front of me. Wheel is really close. Wheel's also adjustable, so you can, make that a little bit high if you're going to stand. But I love this position. The throttles are a little bit of a stretch if I'm being really picky, but I'm very happy here. This is comfortable, and the view is superb. Up here, I've got no trim tab at all. Feels to me that it runs very naturally, so I'm not worried too much about the trim. I just set the speed and begin to enjoy this very well sorted Michael Peters hull. It's a brand new hull design for this boat, absolutely from scratch, and it's lovely. It really is. It is flat as a pancake today, so I can't speak for what it's like if it's choppy, I'm afraid. Dealing with our own wash, it's been absolutely fine, but yeah, not very rough, so not too much I can say, I'm afraid. But in terms of its balance and its poise and its handling and its response, it is an absolute joy. The steering is lovely, really nicely weighted. It's not overly light. You get a nice amount of feedback and a really nice little curve, a nice arc as you dial in a bit of lock. I love that I can see and hear the water peeling off the hull just down here in my peripheral vision. It's absolutely lovely. And on the straight and narrow, you can just tell the wake is in the perfect position. It's peeling off the hull just as it should be. It's nice and quiet, and this just feels like a speed and a position where you can cover ground extremely comfortably. Now it's got a 1300 litre fuel capacity, and that means at the cruising speed of about 23 knots you're looking at just over 200 nautical miles range, which is at the lower end of what you'd expect for a boat of this size, but passable for most people. Obviously you drop the speed down a bit, you're going to eke a little bit more out of it. But yeah, this 23, 24 knot pocket really feels where the boat is most happy, and it's not designed to be chucked around, of course it's not, but if you need to make a sudden move to avoid a pot or something in the water, yeah, it swings around really nicely. Really enjoy driving it from up here. You've got a single helm seat obviously, but they have designed this sun pad over here so two people can sit looking forward next to the helmsman, which is a nice feature. But yeah, this is a great position, really, really good. So all good up here, top marks Prestige. Let's see what it's like from downstairs. It's a new dash design down here as well, so we've got a nice bit of material on the front here, this stainless strip with the Prestige emblem. It's very clean and classy, like upstairs, all very easily laid out. The MFDs are a bit more of a stretch away, so you are leaning forward quite a long way to interact with them, but once they're set, you've got a great view of them. You've got the smaller Garmin screen in the middle as well, Seakeeper control down here, and then like upstairs, a really attractive run of little switches for bilge pumps and water pumps, anchor, all that sort of thing. That's all, you know, nice solid switching. It is a fixed helm position, so you've got your bench here, it doesn't move, you've got some adjustment on the wheel like upstairs, and it was designed from the off to be driven sitting down. Now, I prefer to stand and drive, or at least have the option to stand and drive at a lower helm, but that isn't what they've gone for here, and actually for what it is, it's a really good position. Considering most of it's fixed, this for me at 6 foot is really comfortable. I've got everything, you know, under my arm, as you can see. You can sit back, you've got the throttles under your hand, excellent view forward. You need about a quarter trim tab down here, I think, just to keep the view as good as possible forward. It's quite a shallow windscreen. I was expecting the view to be worse than it is. It's actually pretty good, and the all-round view is good as well because you have that big window aft. You've got a great view aft. You've got this nice big window here as well, so you can see behind you easily. It's a split windscreen. It's quite a chunky mullion down the starboard side here, but this window goes quite a long way forward, so it's pretty easy to peer around it and make sure there's nothing coming into your blind spot. They've done quite a good job with ventilation down here. As part of the exclusive pack, you get the window on that side, you get this small door behind me. I'd still want a window here for the skipper, I think, because everything's behind you. You're not getting much natural ventilation if it's hot in here, and also it would give you another way to communicate with your crew. But I can't fault the access points, and they have at least gone to the bother of putting those ones behind me. It's also very quiet. Even at top speed, it's only registering about 75 decibels. So again, if you want to do some longer miles down here, engines melt back into the background, and yeah, you could feel like you cover some ground in some nice peace and quiet. All very impressive. The only real issue I have with the layout down here is that the trim tabs are mounted all the way up here when there's a perfect spot for them where they've got the control for the spotlight, which is not something that's all that regularly used, I don't imagine. It'd be better to have that up there, and then you've got all your major controls for driving right under your arm, and the trim tab controls right here would be really useful. The last thing to point out is they are going to move these switches as well, because as it stands, you're very likely to knock those on and off as you get in and out of the seat. That aside, all pretty good. That's what she's like to drive then. Let's get the anchor down and have a close look around the decks and interior. Starting back here at the transom then, as standard, you have a fixed platform. I think pretty much everybody these days go for the optional hydraulic platform. It's quite nice, it's got built-in steps. It's got a 350 kilogram capacity, though Prestige would urge you to have a 150 kilogram max tender, because this being an IPS boat with the engines and the pods right back in the hull, they don't want too much weight back here. So you can't have a particularly large tender on here, but you know, 150k, small outboard powered one, that will probably do you. One thing about this design is that you have equal access up both sides into the cockpit. Here in the transom you've got quite a shallow storage locker, but it's useful for lines. There's a hose in there, things like that, and then under here you have your shore power connection, but you have equal access up both sides. Passerelle is under here if you have it specified. Obviously that just fires out over there to get you up to the quayside. And the key change on board this boat is that you have the option to have the dinette arranged this way rather than facing into the boat. Actually, the standard option is an L-shaped arrangement with table in the middle, but they started doing this on the X-Line range, the X70, the X60, and this is the first time we've seen it on a Prestige, and a lot of other yards are doing it this way because it just makes sense to have everybody looking out over the water rather than two people looking into the boat. Very effective here on this boat. This is fixed furniture. There is some storage underneath. These are nice squidgy comfortable benches. Obviously you've got the table in the middle there, that's actually adjustable, high-low leg, so you can drop it down and make it into another sun pad if you want to. Obviously it opens up as well, so you can double it in size. The other thing you have here is this sunshade mounted here. This is an option. It looks like it's at quite a steep angle, but actually comes down a nice way, puts a lovely bit of shade over here, and also works as a privacy screen as well, so that's really quite effective. Right, a simple mooring gear arrangement, one big cleat, got your fair lead, you have got powered winches as standard, which is nice to see. It makes it easy to tension the lines when you're stern to moored. And then you're into the bulk of the cockpit here. This is an option down here to have the ice maker. That's just some storage if you don't go for that option. Engine room access beneath my feet. We'll of course get down there and have a good look around later on. And I mentioned when I was driving the boat that there is the option to have the joystick down here. So if you go for that option, not only do you get the joystick down here, but you also get the bow thruster control. Very conveniently located down here in the cockpit. The controls here for the table and for the bimini. Well, let's carry on forward. This is a new look for this line. We're going to see this rolled out across the F lines, this sort of relief pattern. I think it works really well. The Prestige logo is also backlit, so at night that'll give you a really cool nighttime signature. Obviously you've got deck lighting along the side decks themselves. Here, this is a nice touch. These are lovely, solid, squared off stainless rails. They look and feel very high quality. They do make tying a fender a bit more difficult, but they certainly look the part. No boarding gates on this boat. You have got a side door here that's after the helm. As I mentioned when I was driving, this is where you get the access point from the deck. So it's still useful, but it doesn't align with the helm. And as we move forward, side decks are easy enough to move down, very high tow rails up here, and then you've got a normal guardrail here. So hanging fenders from here is very easy. You've got your midships cleat here. Nice that you've got a bit of stainless here to stop it rubbing away the GRP. It's an option to have this vinyl here on the forward end of the Flybridge. I'd probably leave it white, I think. I think it'll look a bit cleaner, and also if you have a dark colour like this in the beating summer sun, that is going to get quite hot. Pretty simple arrangement forward here. They didn't want to do a Portuguese bridge like you get on Absolute, something like that, but that will become clear why they've made that choice when we have a look inside. So you just have sunbathing space here. This is quite a nice little touch. These flip up and provide you 3 nice deep cup holders. They're also deep enough that you can chuck loose items in there. It's quite helpful. And then you've also got adjustable headrests too, so you can pop these up and make them a little bit more comfortable if you want to sit up and read while you're sunbathing. And of course this is also the working area forward here, so again you've got your mooring gear with your fair leads. Nice to see there's a swivel on the anchor as well, on the big Delta anchor. It should always come up the right way because they've got a swivel on there. Single anchor locker. It's very big. You can see we've got 3 big fenders in there. It's not separated away from the chain, which is a bit unfortunate, but it is a very good size and a really useful storage space on a boat like this. And they have at least got a little rail there so you can run the tails for the fenders through that, meaning you can always grab it without having to reach too far down into the void. Very good. Right, onto the Flybridge. I should point out that this is hull number 1 and still technically a prototype, so there are some bits and bobs that they're going to change, one of which is having a banister down this staircase here. It's open at the moment, feels a little bit precarious. You've got this handhold here, but adding that banister is a smart move. They're also going to change to a different synthetic teak supplier as well, but I think this stuff looks quite good. It's as standard down in the cockpit, an extra to have it on the side decks and here on the Flybridge. And here on the Flybridge, well, it's a nice space. Big area here dedicated to seating for obvious reasons. They're going to fit a smaller table so that you can actually fit somebody down here past the wet bar, because at the moment the only way to get in is this way, so everyone has to shuffle in and out. This is a little bit large. It's a nice table. They're going to make it a little bit narrower so you can sit in there. Wet bar is an option. If you don't have that, the seating extends all the way to the seating section here. I imagine most people will at least want a fridge up here, so you probably will go for the wet bar, because then you can have the grill, the sink, and it just gives you an easier way to cater for your guests without always having to go down to the galley. Up top, there's nothing as standard. You just get the radar mast. You can add this manual bimini, which comes to about here, far enough forward to shade the helm station anyway, and you do need it. This is already getting quite hot under my feet. As an option, you can have a hardtop, of course. Got to have a hardtop, everybody wants one. It hasn't got a sunroof in it, but it just gives you that bit of fixed shade. You don't have to be obviously putting the bimini up and down. This is a nice area. I said out on the water, they've done this quite cleverly because it's a sort of day bed when it's stationary, but you can also have 2 people sitting here keeping the skipper company. There's a slide out section here that joins to here, another cushion so you can extend the sunbathing space. And also note how high the windscreen is, and nice high rails as well. You do feel very secure up here. It's a simple design, but it's a very effective one. Right, let's check out the interior. The cockpit arrangement is brand new, as is the arrangement in the saloon. So what we have here is a single door, no sliding doors here. It just pins in place up here. It does mean that you have a narrow entrance into the saloon, but what it also means is, with this new galley orientation, you have what Prestige likes to call the ocean view. I like that. We've seen this before, we've seen these top hinge windows, but I like the fact that it's manual, it pings up and it connects without you having to go outside, and it's also very easy to bring down again. Very nicely done. And yeah, this is the new thing, the new orientation. They've done aft galleys before, obviously they were one of the first to do it, and you'd often have the galley sort of running down this side, but here we have it running across the boat. Gives you that lovely view. The connection to the outside is undeniably good. It also means you have a massive boost in storage. This is all storage down here. These drawers, these are really deep, they go down under the sofa. I also like these new handles that they're employing on the F-Line range. They remind me of the BA logo, but they look and feel very nice. Dishwasher down here, not enormous, but it will take a little bit of the strain. Microwave oven down here, induction cooking obviously, and all importantly, full size fridge freezer, which really is just expected on a boat of this size. I like the fact you can wedge yourself in as well, so if you're in the galley when the boat's out at sea, you can steady yourself very easily. More storage built in up here. Nice chunky hinges as well. These are nice and solid. It all slams shut. A nice satisfying clunk. This is stone, nice stone effect, Corian standard, but the stone does look and feel really nice. The only thing I'd say is these pieces, the split top for the sink, these are very heavy and there's no really obvious place to put them, but it does again add the feeling of quality, and that's something they've really tried to push on the new F-Line. This is relatively small for the range, but that feeling certainly of perceived quality I think has been elevated, and it's the material choice as much as anything really. You can have walnut as standard. This oak we've got is an option, but the fact that you've got this lovely sort of relief pattern here, this reminds me a bit of what Absolute are doing with their GRP. Obviously this is timber, again a bit more storage under there, but yeah, it just adds a bit of interest where you normally just have a sort of boring flat panel. The other thing you notice is you haven't got the usual couple sofa on the other side of the saloon. The seating is all one connected L shape, which feels a bit more like the L-shaped sofa you might have at home. It feels a bit more homely. High-low table, it doesn't turn into a berth as is. It's something they might consider, I think, if lots of people request it. You have got 3 cabins on board though. That just gives you a bit of adjustment. If you want to dine, you can have it higher. If you want a coffee table, drop it down. Obviously it opens up as well. So yeah, really quite flexible here. The view out isn't great if you're standing, but when I sit down, it all makes sense. Got that lovely view out through the windows there. It is quite a shallow window line. It's a great looking boat, I think, from the outside, and that is part of it. But you really do get the most of it, much like the Azimuth 53. It all works when you're sitting down. It's a hot day today, 25 degrees. We haven't got the air conditioning up particularly high, but with the breeze coming in through that side window, through this window, through the back door, you do get a nice amount of natural ventilation. Moving forward, the last thing to point out is the TV, of course. Very simple mechanism on this boat. No electric up, down, anything like that. Just again, some simple gas rams. The TV fits quite neatly up there, along the largest, or opposite I should say, the widest part of the sofa, so that's quite a sensible place to have it. Okay, on to the accommodation. There's more big news here on the lower deck because Prestige has returned to forward owners' cabins. Of course, we've had a glut of boats having the amidships master. Well, they've switched things around here, and that is going to be the same for all the next generation of F-Line Flybridges. Well, why have they done it? It's because they want to make it a bit more quiet, a bit more private. The guests are tucked down there, as we'll see later on. Obviously, you're further away from the engine room, where you may have obviously engines running, but also generator, seakeeper, air conditioning, that type of thing. Gives you a lot of headroom. You can see I've got plenty of space above my head. Lots of room here for a nice big double bed. There's big amount of storage over on that side, a double hanging locker. And I like the way that they've worked some skylights both sides. They don't open, but you've got an opening one, which is also an escape hatch in the middle. And the other thing it gives you is a bathroom that can really eat into the space over there. This goes a long, long way back. It's a sliding door here, again, to give you a bit more space. It's not opening into the space. And then you even have enough room for things like twin sinks, you know, double cupboard down here with some storage. There's sliding mirrors which reveal even more storage. And just look at the size of that shower cubicle, and that drops down a decent amount to really boost the headroom inside that cubicle. So yeah, it makes a lot of sense. They wanted to keep you away from noise. The only thing I would say is that you risk it being a bit noisier when you're on anchor or if the boat's tied to a buoy, because you can often get that hull slap. But of course, you've still got a double cabin amidships that you could use if you wanted to. Let's go and have a look at it. Yes, so on this boat, the VIP is amidships. There were 2 guest cabins back here. Here on the port side, you've got a twin, decent sized twin with independent berths. You can walk down the middle. They've got a nice bit of window, porthole, some storage in there. Similar amount of headroom to over here, really. You know, it's fine. If you're over 6 foot, then you might have to duck your head a little bit, but generally, once inside the cabins, it's pretty good. And then this is your VIP. The doorways are a little bit narrow if you're a bigger unit, so you have to go through sideways if you're like me, but again, this opens up into what is a nice cabin, and it's quite nice that it's manual, but a lot of this stuff on this boat is manual, which, you know, I think is quite good. There's just less to go wrong. The berths slide apart and together, so you can mirror the twin on the other side if you want, or you can have it like it is now as a double. And like opposite over there, you have a bit of hull window here, you have some natural ventilation, big wardrobe, and, you know, bedside table as well that reveals itself when you slide the berth across. In the hallway here, you have some storage. Storage levels are pretty good across the boat, I have to say, and then you have the option of a washer dryer here in the middle of all the accommodation, which often on these boats you're sort of lifting up staircases to get to that sort of thing. To have it there in a dedicated locker works pretty well. Of course, these cabins have a bathroom. Neither of them are en suite to it, but you have access here to it's also the day head. Again though, like the owner's en suite, it's a really good size with, again, a very large separate shower cubicle. Plenty of space. Doorway's a bit narrow, but once inside, all rather good. That's it then for the guest accommodation. Let's head aft and have a look at the crew space in the engine room. So yeah, the crew cabin, not the F4's strongest point. There are boats in this sector which have got more generous space for your crew. Frankly, the boat is right on the limit of the type of boat that's going to be run with crew anyway. If you really want it, you can have it. If you don't want the crew fit out, it just comes as standard as some storage, but you can kit out with a bed and a sink and a toilet if you do think people are going to sleep down here. And even if you do kit out like that, you can, of course, like this boat has done today, use it as a storage void. On to the engine room. Access through this hatch in the cockpit, ladder in the middle, and you're down sort of between the engines. It's pretty tightly packed in here, especially if you have the seakeeper underneath the generator. There's a lot in this space. However, the space around the engines is actually pretty good, and all the stuff that you're going to want to check regularly, such as the dipsticks and the raw water strainers and the fuel filters, which are on the tank either side here, are all very easy to get to from this central spot. So you do have to clamber to get to the back of the engine. The pods are behind a panel, so you have to sort of move around if you need to get good access to them. But in terms of the engines, it's really not too bad at all. And it's all pretty neat and tidy, neatly laid out and easy enough to get to. But yeah, a bit of clambering if you need to get to the back of the engine room. Behind me here then is the future of Prestige. We have this new world for them, the M8 Powercat. We've tested that boat. If you want to watch that review, put a banner above my head and a link in the description. But the F4, as I said, core Prestige. They didn't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater with this one. They've got to be careful. It is so important to them. But I think the changes they've made do move the game on enough. It's a really solid all-round package, and for me the most surprising and enjoyable thing was just how good it is to drive. Not something you may expect from this type of boat, but something that is incredibly rewarding when it turns out as well as this one has. Let me know what you think though. There's lots of competition for this size and style of boat. Let me know in the comments which 50-footer you'd go for if you were in the market. Thanks for watching that review. The M8 is about to leave. If you want to watch the video of it, then you can click on this box here. Loads more sea trials if you click down here. And if you want to subscribe to the channel, then please click up here. I'll see you on the next one.